Hello there and welcome on the waves of Radio Algeria International. We're still ensuring the coverage of the IATF 2025 and today we're talking to you from the pavilion of the Pan-African Chamber of Commerce and Industry, and I am happy today to have with me the Executive Director of the Pan-African Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Mr. Kebbour Ghenna. Thank you so much for being with us.
You're very welcome.
So for the first time, despite its previous participation in the IATF in its previous editions in Egypt and South Africa, the Pan-African Chamber of Commerce and Industry have its own pavilion. Tell us more about this year's participation and also about the initiatives that we are presenting at the fair.
Okay, you're right. This is the first time that we've had actually our own pavilion with also members of the Pan-African Chamber of Commerce and Industry. The last the last stand actually that we had was in Durban. And so from one stand to a 280 square meter pavilion, we made a great progress. Why? Because I think our members are getting more and more trustful about the organization. They started believing with the work that we do, and this particular pavilion is done in collaboration with UNDP. Actually, we split the cost of this pavilion, and here we are actually because we basically brought up members from 17 countries actually in this pavilion. So I'm very happy actually that we are in Algiers.
So when you talked to APS, Algeria Press Agency, you said that this year you are presenting 3 initiatives. The Pan-African Chamber of Trade and Commerce is presenting 3 initiatives. Tell us about them.
The one initiative that we are also presenting here is an initiative that we've worked out with the African Continental Free Trade Area Secretariat. And the initiative is unique. As you know, in many instances, when the Secretariat and also the discussion about the AfCFTA were progressing, the role of the private sector was not really too clear. There have been some contact to the private sector, but nothing in terms of, let's say, regular discussion. So we have actually now put in place a platform with the AfCFTA Secretariat, which brings the private sector and the Secretariat to discuss on any issues that are impacting the AfCFTA. It could be problems with customs, it could be internal logistical problem, it can be movement of people. So all those issues will be discussed in the open, and decisions or consultative ideas will be brought to the attention of the Secretariat. And I think this regular interaction between the private sector and the AfCFTA Secretariat and the government will be good for the integration of the continent and also for expanding trade across the continent.
How will the digitalization of the Chamber of Commerce help improve trade and business integration across Africa?
Well, that's the second initiative that we have, although we don't discuss it here. But this is a project that we've launched about a year and a half ago. It's called the CMI, the Chamber Model Innovation. And since then, we have actually adopted that methodology and tried to help chambers of commerce across the continent to adopt it. You know, before COVID, the interaction between chambers of commerce and their business community was mostly in-person contact. You are invited to a chamber of commerce, you drive or you go to the Chamber of Commerce hall and you get information or you get businesses to meet. But since COVID, the world has changed, and the role of ICT particularly has been very much dominant in terms of providing instant information to the business, getting the business to interact with one another without really leaving their office or leaving, their home. And so the whole idea of the CMI is to provide instant information to businesses that require it. It could be information on standards, it could be information on investment codes, it could be information on ease of business, registration, and so on and so forth. So we have launched it, but we're still looking for, I would say, financial support from various institutions to launch it across the continent.
You spoke about the free trade area, and you said that it's promising, and you mentioned a few challenges. From them is to fix the regulation, issues related to logistics and everything. What is your vision to deal with these challenges the best way?
This is a project that everybody seems to support and like. Africa, doing business with Africans, actually. But there are structural problems. There are infrastructural problems. For example, roads, communication. It could be also policy issues different from one country to another. The movement of persons from one country to another. The payment system. You have the Algerian dinar and you have the CFA and so on and so forth, and that makes it quite challenging actually to do business because you have to look for euro or the US actually to do the transaction. So it's a long journey, and I think in the last 3-4 years we see, and I'm sure you must have noticed it, and this trade fair would also be one reason why actually you have so many participants. I think the Algiers fair is probably one of the best of the one that I've seen so far. So all these demonstrates that there is really an important commitment, for example, for the Algerian government, as you've seen, to put up this trade fair and also to build up a new trade fair center actually next door. I mean, all these show that Africa wants really to do business with within the continent. And so for me, it may take time, but we are, I think, on the right journey. Yes.
So now the IATF is aiming at 44 billion US dollars of deals and partnerships. What are the major sectors you expect to have the biggest share in these deals?
Okay, usually it's a question of, from business perspective, it's mostly, if you ask me, in terms of sectors that are very much favored. I see agriculture as one. I see everything that is around logistics, transport, vehicles. I'm sure you must have seen actually the various trucks and vehicles actually that are produced in the continent, across the continent. Telecom is another business, but also mostly from what I understand and from what I heard actually, the interest is around agriculture mostly as number one, and then manufacturing comes second, again around vehicles and spare parts and related issues. And then on the third level I see more and more apparels. Clothing and textiles and so on as coming really on top of the deals that will be conducted here at the Algiers Fair.
What are the sectors that you think that African countries should invest in more, but they are not maybe having the share that they deserve?
I think agriculture is number one, and for obvious reason actually. You have to feed yourself, and that's the number one, I would say, interest of many countries. You have to feed your people, and then you can make sure that you can also are able to export what you produce and what you can provide actually to the other continents or the other parts of the country. So the other investment area I say is transport actually, because as you've seen, the transport, particularly the air transport, is getting very, very expensive, and so we need really to look into the rail transport and the road transport. The problem is there is always this issue of security that needs to be addressed in one way or another, but also governments have to be committed to open up their borders so that people can move from one place to another, not just capital, but also people can move. There's also what many people call about the value chains, because the free trade agreement favors actually products that are produced in Africa. So you can produce, for example, a particular parts and then ship it to Kenya, and Kenya can do the final production of that cost. And that is, according to the AfCFTA agreement, that doesn't have any tariff put on it. And so the value chains is, how can we develop these value chains? It's a very tricky thing, because I think many people seem to say that to develop a value chain, you need to have access to finance, access to skilled manpower, access to policy harmonization, because if you have a certain standards in one country and a different standards in another, then it becomes very difficult actually to sort of work together. So these are the challenges that I think would be and are being addressed currently across the continent.
Algeria grants great importance to intra-African trade and collaboration in different fields, and of course trade is one of the main ones. Hosting the event reflects Algeria's commitment to encouraging intra-African trade partnerships and exchange views among African countries. How do you see Algeria's role in the future of intra-African trade, especially given its position, between Europe and Africa?
Yes, listen, Algeria is the number 4 country in GDP in Africa. It's a very important country in Africa. It's a very, I would say, economically strong in the continent. The one commitment that one can see is the effort that the Algerian government has put up, not just to organize this event, but also to build from scratch the Trade Fair Center, which unfortunately was not ready for the opening of this fair. But it shows that in such a short period of time, they have committed not just the money, but also they have really almost finished a huge complex to host this fair. So that shows also commitment from the Algerian government that they would be interested in the African market, and I think I would encourage the Algerian government pursue that route. I think many Africans businesses don't know much about the North African businesses, don't know much about Algeria, and this should continue. Actually, this opening, which I call it really an opening, should not really be a one-time opening, but we should really build in on how to organize a smaller fair, organize special business-to-business meetings, organize visits to African countries. Exactly, this is just the starting point, but you have to build on this starting point. It's a very positive starting point. Then now I think they should perhaps even put an AfCFTA commission actually just to follow the AfCFTA progress across the continent.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kebbour Ghenna. You're the Executive Director of the Pan-African Chamber of Commerce and Industry.